Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome back to the LoDown. Ivana Chubbuck, author of The Power of the Actor. If you are an actor, a director, a writer, a producer, you may have taken her class, read her book. If you haven't, you're going to want to after this interview. I have been very fortunate to work with Ivana very recently on a film that I'm preparing for, and I have to say that it's been kind of a life-altering experience. Before I could work with her, I had to read the book, which I was really happy to do, and sort of intimidated by the idea of actually getting to work with her because she's worked with some extremely famous people. And there she is. Ivana, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to do this because I know you are a rather busy gal. And I'm sure you're between coaching sessions right now. So I don't want to make this go on forever because I know you have a lot of things to do, but we have a lot to talk about. And I know this is going to be a little bit different for you because normally you're the one asking the questions, but today it's my turn.
Yay!
So first, I just want to ask you, because I'm sure people are curious, you were an actress for a lot of years before you decided to become a coach. What changed and why did you decide to make that shift?
Well, I did come out here to be an actress first. And then I found, how like actors always help each other when they get an audition or once they book a role, they help each other. And that's how actors are. Actors are very symbiotically loving and nurturing. And it's like we have our own little world, which is special. And that's why it's so special to be a part of that world. And so I found that when I was giving notes to people, just as sharing as an actor, I found I enjoyed that more than I did when I was actually performing. And so I had a lot of the people that were my friends saying I did some of my best work. That note you gave me, it was amazing. It just opened up the whole part for me and made me understand. And I started realizing that maybe this is my calling. Because everybody has a calling. And it's our job to figure out what is that calling. Now, it's someone was very, very smart. They said to me that you have to not create the path that you think that you want to be on, but let the path find you. And the path will find you and let you know what it is your gifts are, what the gifts are that you're supposed to share with the world, and the gifts that that are something that makes you empowered as opposed to shame or hurt by it or feeling like you have to hyper struggle. And I found that it was time went by a lot faster when I was teaching than when I was acting. And so that gave me some thoughts. And then also it just became, I started looking at my watch on set and I'd be going like, I have to work with someone back at my house, just as a friendly thing. I wasn't charging it. And I just couldn't wait to get there and get off the set. So that's helped me like, maybe this is not where I want to be. Maybe the place
There was many aha moments of ding, 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 ding.
Exactly. It took a while because it's very seductive being on, having the camera on you and having people kind of look at you as something special because someone had picked you to play this role and to be a part of a journey of conceivably millions of people watching you. And it's like, it's very seductive. And
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you for a second because somebody said, oh my God, are you guys twins? I told you, people are saying
the same. We're part of the tribe.
Somebody said you need to play her in a movie.
Well, hopefully one day anybody's going to give a shit that I'm going to be played in some form or manner. And so that will be you.
Sisters. Okay. So, okay. It's a crazy question I'm going to ask you because you're clearly not. But do you think you're intimidating?
I don't think I am. So when people tell me that I am, I always like, me? I'm just so nurturing and so wonderful and fabulous. But I get very passionate when someone I know is very talented and they're just not putting the work in, and I get pissed off. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself? You're good. You're great. You could be super successful. Why aren't you doing the work that's going to get you to those places. And sometimes that's intimidating for people, but more importantly, what it does is it makes them work harder and get to the successful places because they don't want to piss me off. And it's not about pissing me off because for me, it's just belief. For me, it's tough love. It's like, anybody who has kids knows that if you just tell them not to put their tongue in an electrical socket, they're going to do it anyway. But if you really do some tough love about it, how that's going to destroy you and everybody else in their lives, that it's going to destroy and devastate them if anything happens to you. And if you say it in a way that's with toughness and love with that toughness, they're not going to put their tongue in the electrical socket, and they will stay alive to live to be an adult. So it's like the idea for me is like empower actors to a great place that allows the world to see it too. You say you become a force to be reckoned with, and it allows the people who are watching the self tapes or if you're coming into the room, say she's a force or he's a force to be reckoned with. So you just like, I gotta work with this person, even though it may not have been the ideas that I had for the part and what I wanted that person to be or look like. People change their minds off what you bring to it, but that's the power of the actor. And therefore, the title of the book, ding, 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 another ding, ding, ding moment. There's going to be a lot of them today. But
Okay.
that's true, because let's talk about us for a second. So one of the things that I talked about initially, I said we could go to the truthful places, but that's boring. To me, it's like, why do we want to be in the arts if we're not changing the world in some way? And changing the world starts with one person at a time. So we talked, without getting your particulars, because that's your private world, is that I talked about what do you need to change in your present world that will get you your future world to be exciting, prosperous, emotionally, spiritually, actually, to be able to be in a place that's going to stop you from thinking that you're not worth it. You don't have the value. You're not the self-love issues that most actors have, most human beings have, I should say, that they don't think that they are worthy of good things happening to them. So what we do is we use the work and our personalizations as a way to change that thought process that somehow you are from the past and past, things that have gone into your head from childhood, tapes that go into your head, which is science of psychology, right? And to change those tapes via the work, not via, so there's a therapeutic reality to what we do, but more importantly, we're creating a beautiful picture with it. We're not doing therapy. So
Right.
it's,
Well, let me jump in and ask you a question about that, because you've been referred to as the 21st century Stanislavski. Okay, but you're doing the Chubbuck method. So how is the Chubbuck method similar and different to the work that Stanislavski?
Well, Stanislavski was the first person to bring in truth. It's just to bring in personalizations and the truth of who you are to the table. And I say truth, so I start with that base, the truth, your personalizations, your history, your childhood stuff, your stuff that's happened recently. Someone in your life has the disease that you're afraid they're going to die. Someone in your life is you're struggling with in a relationship with somebody that you're close to that you don't understand why they're pissed off at you. There's all these things that we're trying to work out, but usually based in things that happened to you as a child. Again, the science of psychology. And so the thing is, what I take the base of Stanislavski, because you have to have a base for everything. Like math starts off with addition and subtraction, and then goes to calculus and all the higher, like algebra and all those other things. But you have to start with the basics first. So the basics is Stanislavski. Then we go into how do I use this to empower, to use my personal pain and trauma and to be the underbelly and the fuel to allow me to overcome and win whatever the objective is, not only for the character, but for me too, for me as well. So that this way it becomes a prosperous journey, a journey that's fun, and because there's something so awful about when actors have to pump up all this ugly past history, and it's like, who wants to do that? I was working with someone yesterday, and she was like using what if her mom died, and did a whole coffin exercise with her mom. And I said, your mom's not dead, you know, so don't do that, you know. So
Right.
let's let's make try to if the issue you have is with your mom, then try to make her want to stay alive if she's having issues of depression and stuff. So use that I can't let you die, not make her die, but make it so I don't want that to happen. So it becomes prosperous and it becomes
Right.
something joyful.
And really personal, really, really personal, where you can really be genuinely affected
Yeah, exactly.
and not making it up out of the ether.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Netherworld. I was like,
Right.
pull
By
this
the
on.
way, I just want to interject something. You are so beloved. I normally don't really get to read the messages that are going past us as we're speaking, but people are messaging you from all over the world, from Germany, from the Ukraine, from all over. People are saying that they listen to your inner, like this, what we're doing now, they listen to them when they're on set. Between takes, they listen to the things that you've taught them. You can't believe the messages. So thank you all for sending all those messages. It's really nice for me to be able to tell Ivana. So
Yeah,
okay.
and also for me to know because I am such a tunnel vision person when I'm talking about my art and changing the world, empowering the world through the arts. I can't look at what you guys are writing because then I start to think, oh, I remember you, and then and I start thinking
Right.
about you and our relationship because
No, me too. I normally don't see, but I see so many messages. Somebody's from Israel, just saying Israel. I mean, they're all.
shalom, shalom.
So, so, so
Okay,
let me ask you.
this
Here,
is really important because you could pass this along too. One of the reasons why I can't look at these things is because I remember everything that you tell me. And it could be 5 years ago you told me
yes, you
something,
do.
and then you've said many times like, how do you remember that? Because it was just a throwaway thing that you said. It's like, and I will say, remember that thing you said, or and it was could have been out of a 2 hour session that you said something that was literally like maybe 3 words, and I'll go back to that and I'll go, let's use that because that's. And then I see your body and your face change and be like, oh, that's the one, that's the one, that's resonating. Let's stay with that and go further and dig deeper into that. And that's so fun. My discovery, my exploration of people's humanity, of why they are who they are, why they made the choices they've made as the character, and then how to personalize it to be yourself is the most fascinating, interesting thing. It's a whole the science of human behavior is so like detailed and to explore something that is so dense and rich. Every day I learn something new. Every day. I mean,
I
this
also want to say
conversation.
something else about having worked with you now, which I thought it clicked for me actually the other day when I was going over our notes and looking at this stuff, waiting again for the dates for this film. But yeah, waiting and waiting, hurry up and wait. But I was for many years Meisner trained, and I think that's very useful for certain things you're doing. But what occurred to me is that in doing the work with you, how you had me make notes for the other character as well. Because for those that don't know, in Meisner, you're reacting off of the behavior of the actor that you're, working with. But to me, that was sort of your interpretation of that in some way by having the actors actually say what the other character is, thinking and what their intention is too, which it just made it so much fuller for me, made it very, very clear. So talk
Well,
about that a little bit and why you have the actors do that.
because people listen and they don't just talk. And so actors too spend too much time just thinking, well, the words are all that's important. But the listening is actually more important because there's more thoughts that go on when we listen. We take in what we hear and what that means to us. Then we take what we hear and what that means to us. And then what we do is say, what are we going to do about it? And then we figure out how are we going to be nice about what we just heard? Are we going to be ugly about what we just heard? Are we going to call that person on what we just heard? Or are we going to ignore what we just heard and deny or try to change the subject? There's all kinds of things that are going on that are so choice and so connected to us watching you when you're not speaking. We see before we hear. We pictures worth 1,000 words. People, when I get people, I work with a lot of directors and a lot of producer writers, and they show me the videos of the people they want to cast. And you know, they rarely ever say, look how that person said a line. What they normally say is, look what they're doing when the other person's talking, or look at the behavior that they're doing. And so it's like, that's how, like, people get cast from behavior, and behavior comes in how you listen. I call it active listening. So when I talk about something that is personal to me, say just in real life, people don't listen in my words. They don't try to remember, think about my history of being an actor and that kind of stuff. What they're doing is thinking about their own journey, and they're thinking, what is my gift? Is my gift an acting gift? Am I in the right place? So they're not thinking about my journey. They're thinking about their own. People listen selfishly. And then it makes us allow us to actually want to do something about it, because our selfish needs create stronger need to overcome, to get what we want, to feel that there's obstacles through whatever we're listening that we have to challenge and deal with, because we're not really listening what the other person's saying, or we're just hearing the person's words from the script. They don't mean anything to us, so we're just going to sit there and kind of nod our head. You have to listen. I actually was working with someone who's this an award-winning, just became an award-winning docuseries, and he came to me to learn how to listen better when he's asking questions about a very provocative topic. And so I said, you gotta me too it. You gotta me too. I also feel that way, or I don't agree with you, but this is why I don't agree with you, so that you have like a connection that even though you're not speaking aloud, you are speaking, and your inner monologue, I call it the inner monologue,
Right, the inner monologue.
and the inner monologue speaks volumes. If you make it personal and specific and important and challenging, because you can't just hear things that don't challenge you. You got to think, that person's being mean to me, even though they have a smile on their face, or that person is calling me a name, and what do I do with that, because they're being really obviously in my face and being mean to me, or that person's telling me that they love me even though they say they hate me. So I know your game. You always pull the hate me thing just when you're feeling very provoked by how much you care about me. So this is like this is inner monologue. How we take it in, how we listen, is the difference between good acting and great acting.
You took one of my questions. That was one of my questions was, what's the difference between good acting and great acting? So you've already answered that question.
Listening, active listening.
Active
Listening.
listening. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you work with an actor, you really dig down. You know, as you've already said this, I mean, you know almost everything about me. Like, I probably told you all the things I've done in, like, you know, so many years of therapy. It's you know a lot already. Do you think that in order to be a good actor, you have to have had a lot of Sturm und Drang in your life, or can you be a good actor without having gone through a lot of hardship?
I just think life happens to everybody, and even if you have had the most glorious childhood, things happen where you feel like, for example, someone who says, I have just a great childhood, you say, like, did you ever feel like you disappointed your a parent? Did you ever feel you let that person down? Because after they've given you so much love and attention and heart, and giving up some things about their own life to take care of you, do you feel you let them down in giving back all that they gave you? And that's huge. That's very deep, and that's very usable. So it doesn't have to be like my world is like I was physically abused, and a father who was an amazing man who did empower. I tried to do what he did. He empowered the world through law, and so he took what he was a Holocaust survivor as a child. He couldn't do anything about it as a child, but as an adult, he was a civil rights attorney. He was an attorney for unions, creating unions. He was a lawyer for poor people who couldn't afford to have his. So he didn't have much money, but he was a good man. However, he wasn't there to protect me. Now these are obvious things. You say, what if I don't have that kind of stuff? There's and so, for example, I had someone else who just a great family. His father was a doctor. I said, what kind of doctor? He was a surgeon. And I said, well, how often was he home? And so he said, well, hardly ever, because surgeons, I just put the pieces together. I said, well, hardly ever. So when you were going through something, or you had a football game, or did he ever show up? He said, no. Did you ever hear the words, I love you, I'm proud of you? No. And I said, well, and he's passed away. His father's passed
You
away.
find a way to get it out of people. It's really extraordinary what you do. I mean, it's an amazing gift. I have to ask you, have you ever told it? Like, I'm sure you have. How many people do you think over the years have you told, like, who are in your class, this isn't for you, you shouldn't be in the business?
I think that's one of the awfulest things that a person can do to somebody, because who am I to say that your dreams, your passion, the thing that you've determined as your goals and your heart is something that you shouldn't be doing? I think is evil. I think that I'm going to do everything I can to help you pursue that dream, to help you find the things that trigger you to make that dream so. But every so often it becomes a thing where maybe it's not my technique that works for you. Maybe you should find someone else to explore your
Got it.
talents and your abilities. But it's like, not because I don't believe in them, or I ever want to make them feel that way. I said, maybe I'm not the right fit. And it's like in the same way, it's like, I believe in therapy. I go to therapy. I think you learn a lot in therapy about yourself. And that not every therapist is the right therapist for you. I've had therapists who just really didn't get me, and they were just didn't understand what I was going through. And like I recently found somebody that about 4 months ago who really got me. And so when she was sometimes saying, yeah, that my father did that, blah blah blah, I go, oh, me too. So it had that feeling of you get me enough so that you have the education of going to school and having your having your education of being a therapist, and you can help me through something that you understand that maybe you haven't gotten through. It doesn't really matter to me, but you understand it. So you can understand what I'm going through. So I find that sometimes people, it's not necessarily their talent, but it's just, I just maybe just don't get them. I mean, the good thing about my having, done so many sabotaging things to myself, so much self-doubt, so much self-loathing that I've had to overcome, so much abuse that I felt was my fault. I had victim mentality, all that stuff gives me knowledge for a lot of different people all over the world. Because the most interesting thing about people all over the world is we're all the same. It's the human animal. We all have the same issues. We all have the same doubts. We all have the same fears. We all have the same dramas, traumas, and things that happen to us. And so we're all the artists of the world. We're a globe unto ourselves. We have our own universe, and that's pretty
Mm,
cool.
it is cool. Yeah, listen, you've worked with some of the greatest actors of all time. You've helped people get Oscars, Golden Globes,
Mm.
Emmys. I mean, you've done it all. When you're working with an actor, if
Ponies.
they, Tonys, I was going to say Tonys too.
Because a lot of people don't think that this only works for film, and I said this works for stage too.
Yeah,
That people get stage awards,
of
that country's
course.
Tonys or that country's, whatever, BAFTAs or whatever. So go ahead.
But my question is, um, what happens when you're working with somebody and they really disagree with the direction that you really feel strongly they should take the character? Has that ever happened?
Well, I don't ever feel strongly about it. I'm really open to your thoughts. It's like that's why I always like when I work with someone, I think let's read it out loud so I can hear your voice to it. And so when I'm working in a class situation, I want to hear what was. I've had it happen where people said this was and this work was really good, and I said, so what was your objective in that scene? And they said blah blah blah, and that's not usually how I break down that scene. So I said, you know what, that's got to be my new way of breaking down that scene. So it's like you got to be open. Art is malleable. It's not. It's not like in the world of art, 2 plus 2 is orange. In the normal world, 2 plus 2 is 4. So we have to be malleable. We have to be open to the possibility that there's many ways to look at a particular, to play a killer, to play a prostitute, to play someone who is someone who's a scientist or somebody who's a lawyer. It's like there's many, many ways to like kind of define it off of the jaundiced lens of your own personal life. just like life, we see other people through our own lens. We don't see them in a pure, objective fashion. We see them through the jaundiced lens of our own history. And therefore, we either become friends with that person, I feel that person gets me, we have this chemistry together, or that person will never get me. They just don't, I just feel it in my bones. That person just really is judging me and doesn't really understand why I do the things I do. And that's just like the idea of always being open to the possibility that maybe your way isn't the only way. And I think that's what makes a great teacher. A great teacher has to keep learning.
See, you're not intimidating at all.
We'll see.
No, you're not.
I know.
I
So what the
actually,
heck?
going
So
back to my
what the
question,
heck?
no, when I first was going to work with you, I have to say, prior to our first meeting, I did feel a little bit intimidated. You know, I read the book and I'd heard obviously so many things about you, and I was a little scared. And then you put me at ease the minute we got onto Zoom together. The moment I just thought you know. So
But
anyway,
also,
you.
there's also humor. I mean, humor is really important. I think even in the darkest material, humor is key
Mm,
to put in there because it makes people see the dark if you find the light. And so it's just the three dimensionality of life. And like one of the ways that I help people um, be open is making jokes about your fears, making jokes about your neuroses. Oh, here's the neuroses coming in. Here we go. You know, so it's like, and the thing is that I had someone the other day in the coaching say, I was saying, we have all this anger. And she said, well, you do too. And I said, no, yeah, absolutely. So no doubt I have a lot of the same, and me and her have a lot of the same like issues of abuse and then and a parent that chose to not be helpful. And so we always have that. We make jokes about each other and how fucked up we are, you know.
right.
So, you know, so, and that's, I think whenever I find more things that make me screwed up and neurotic, I see that as a ka-ching. I see that as gold. That's something more I can use to help my students find their gold. There is it makes quirky behavior, and quirky behavior is more interesting, no matter what the character is.
100%. Let me ask you, what was your most gratifying? If you could think of one thing, and I'm sure it's hard to think of one, but as a coach, what would you say was your most gratifying moment?
Well, it's not really. It's going to be a little left turn on the question, but it kind of makes sense. It's just when my daughter said that she wants to be like me and she was proud of me and wanted to be like me. I never heard the words "I love you" and "I'm proud of you" from either of my parents, and both of them have passed away, and so that's never going to happen. And so when she said that, and then indeed became a teacher in my school, and she said in one interview that she had when I think we were in Ukraine together, and she said in an interview, she said, "I want to make sure my mom's legacy continues after." And I just like it's like that to me is the most gratifying is that, and one of the things I didn't even know she was doing this, but she was reading my book when she was a child, you know, and just I didn't know she was doing it, and just reading it and rereading it, and just taking. I mean, that to me is the most gratifying thing because remember, your children are your second chance to fix what happened to you. So it's
Absolutely.
so I that was beyond gratifying. You know, this is
Wow.
shout out
Is
to
she,
Shout out to Claire Chubbuck.
yeah, right. Is Claire teaching at the studio? Does she teach
Yes,
at the
she
studio?
is. Yes, she does. And
Amazing.
online
That's
and
incredible.
yeah, she's
Okay.
amazing.
Is it better to be extraordinary and late or good and on time?
I think it's so disrespectful to be late, and I think that it tells people this is the message I get from people who are always late. Is like you're late. You're trying to get attention away from what people who really deserve attention. So whether you're brilliant or not, I find that people that are brilliant generally are on time. I've had the most famous people, because people come to me, I don't come to them. I've had some of the most famous people, so humble, sitting outside waiting for their time. Sitting outside waiting for their time. I look out the window and say, "You can come in." I finished with the other person early, So it's like that's the mark of greatness is respect of other people. And so how can you be great and disrespectful? I don't, this all great acting is communication. Because you're trying to communicate. It's not about you. Many times I've said to actors, take your eyes off of you and put it onto the other person. If you know everything that you're doing, then you're off. If you know everything the other person's doing, you're on. Because the thing is, like when we're playing a game, when we're
Oh,
working,
that's so good, Ivana. Say that one more time. Everybody needs to hear that again.
when you are just thinking about what you're doing and you're watching yourself, your eyes are on yourself, then you're off. Absolutely. When you're really aware of everything the other person's doing off of things that you're saying and doing, and it's going to affect you, that's when you're on. And the more you know about the other person and the less you know about what you're doing, and later on, people say to you, um, God, when you were doing this, this, and that, and I was doing that, that, and this. And so I remember the first time I worked with Brad Pitt. He was beginner, ranked beginner, just out of Missouri, right? At first scene in class, he did from a play called Tribute. And he did all this stuff because he was thinking, sexual thoughts. So the scene was about a virgin thinking this girl who was set up by his father to seduce him for his first time. And so he was trying to pour some wine for her, but the glasses, he started holding the glasses, those stem glasses, and he had them on his breast and he was twisting it. And then he was just all subconscious. And then he poured the wine and gave it to her. And it was like, I said to him, after she was done, I said, are you aware that what you were doing with twisting the stems of, he said, no, I was doing that. And he bright red, turned bright red. Because that's when you really know, I really want to please you. I want to make you fall in love with me. I want to do it. So you do stuff that we're unaware of. That's about like, responding, really, really hearing what the other person's saying in your own world, in your personalizations. So eyes off of you, onto the other person so you
Right.
can really connect to the other person.
It's also you're not thinking. You're responding to, right? And
Well, it's
I
not because I want you to think. I want you to think. I want you to like me. I want you to be turned on by me. I want you. There's actions and beats and that kind of stuff. We're
right.
just reacting. It's only half the puzzle. We watch the driver. We don't watch the passenger. So you
But
have to
like you said you want to do all that work. You want to know what your intention is. You want to know what your obstacles are. Uh, but you don't want to be thinking about that when you're in the scene. You want to sort of let it go and
Yeah,
just
it's called step 12. There's 12 steps. There's all this work you have to do, and the step 12 is let it go so
right.
that you can have impulses happen. But if you don't do all the work and all the defined work, because it's a lot of work recreating real human beings, we're
Hmm.
complicated. So we're creating real humanity. But once we've done all the work, you let it go, and things will happen to you that will be impulsive, which is the best. That's what you want. You want your impulses to be able to be in play,
Right.
and not to,
That's what I meant by not thinking, that you want to get to that point where you've done all the homework and now you can just,
yes.
right.
But you got to do all the work before you can let it go. But let it go is a really important, and that's one of the things that I've heard from people all over the world. That's the hardest step to do. Because
Yeah.
once you've done all that work, you go, I don't want to let it go. I'm afraid it's not going to
Right.
be there, but it will be there in ways that you didn't
Got to
expect.
trust it.
You got to
So,
trust, big
so
time trust.
I've often, when I'm being interviewed, a lot of times everybody loves to ask the question, what advice would you give to younger actors who are starting out? But from where I'm sitting, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to more seasoned actors who haven't quite fulfilled their potential yet?
I think they have to do kind of what Stallone did with me at 69 years old, said, I feel like my work is atrophying and I need to get back to learning again and being humble about the fact that there's still so much more for me to learn. And so he went, our first project together was Creed, and he got more attention, more awards, even in Rocky. He got more the Critics Award. He won the Golden Globe for an Oscar for that. It's like this was him saying, okay, how do I keep growing? And with the humbleness of someone who's already a big star, who didn't need my help to be a big star, but what he wanted to be proud of his work. And so that's what happened. He said, talked about it in many interviews, talking about how I gave him a new joy of acting. And part of it is your joy. Is if you're just like, oh, I have to do this work, um, I don't really want to. I've already paid my dues in that. I did that back in the day when I was studying, I was younger. But the thing is, if you take it from the philosophy that I have, which is we're changing your life to, you're taking the stuff from your past to figure out what needs to change today so that you have a better tomorrow, for the character and then therefore for yourself.
But, I guess for me, I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was in an acting class, and there was a woman, she must have been about 40, 45. And, she was in the class, and I looked at her and I thought she was at that time older than dirt. And I thought, oh my God, if I get to be that age and I'm not a series regular, or I haven't really made it big, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. So here I am. Still haven't had my series regular role, and I'm still doing this. And I think that's that.
But what you gotta do is stop the defeated thought process and and think in terms of like when Judith Light came to me when she was in her late 40s, and she said, "I think it's over for me. Women who are older don't get jobs." And then I said, "We're going to take the defeated victim, life is over, for me as I know it, and just with great um, focus, with blinders on, go after the objective for the character that's very personal to you, that you need to change so that you can be a more empowered person. So you can take this stuff as before you were victimizing yourself by, or feeling that you're going to give up by, and instead see it as reasons and fuel and issues of why you're going to change that. I'm going to win in spite of you and because of you. And the things that people say, I can't do it. But in spite of you and because of you. And so with blinders on, going after that objective, using the stuff she was going through, that I'm going to win, putting that win-lose kind of aspect into it, she ended up getting job after job after job, taking recurs and turning them to regular jobs. I mean, regular, being a series regular, getting awards for it, and then getting, the only person in the history of the Tonys that's ever won a back-to-back Tony is her. This all happened after we changed her mindset, and the mindset through the work as an actor. I'm not a therapist. I am not a life coach. I know zero about that stuff, but what I can tell you is how to take the stuff that's blocking you from having the success that you want, whether it's in love or making babies. Or I have a girl who she kept having miscarriages and I figured out through her work that she just needed to use in her work whoever was blocking her to think that she wasn't worth having a child. So we started getting my power back from those. That was her objective. I'm the person that was taking the thought process that she deserved to have a child. And now she's like 2 weeks away from giving birth, to a healthy baby. And so they both say that they went to 3 different doctors, all these miscarriages. I was the best doctor they had. But I was a doctor. What I just did what I do, which is everything that you have can be healed through art. Through art. It doesn't, any other way, I believe in therapy. I just don't know how to do it myself. But I believe that I go to people that can help me through this. But what I can do and what I am master at is understanding how to change your world via the pain and the issues that you have, your doubts, your fears, your insecurities, your traumas, and turning them into gold.
Ivana, how does it feel to be you? Because again, I can't, I've never had so many people sending messages during these interviews. You have inspired so many people. How does it feel to be you, knowing that the lives you've touched, the lives you've changed, How does that feel to be you? Can you take that in?
The lesson that I always learned from my father, which he was such a humble man and a gentle man. But he did change the world for a lot of people, and it's it's the kind of thing that I want to feel like this is how I take it in is I do have a purpose. I believe in God, so I just think that God gave me a purpose and I'm fulfilling that purpose. And so I don't believe in religion, just so if anybody just wants to understand, it's not a particular religion. It's just I believe in the resource of an energy that is God, and that there is that God gave me a gift, and that I found it, and that I'm utilizing it in a way that is changing people's lives, and and therefore it's changing mine because I go through a lot of I have my own personal dramas going on all the time. And so sometimes I have to think in terms of like, well, I had to have that drama in my life so I could understand how to help somebody else that I wouldn't have understood if I hadn't had that specific drama in my life.
What do you think is the most courageous thing you've ever done in your life?
Um, Interesting question. And the first thing that came to my head was going to say having a baby, um, because my mother was so abusive and she had 7 kids, and it's just she by the grace of God, nobody committed suicide in this group because it was a pretty very abusive. And so the whole thing is like I was the first person to have a child. Everybody else was afraid. I had it in my 30s, so everybody else was afraid to have it because they were afraid to duplicate what happened to them. So when they saw that you don't have to, and literally it was like after having abortions with other
Right.
men that should never have been in my life, like for even the second that they were in my body. But they were because I was in that place where I needed to have intimacy issues, in terms of wanting to be loved any way, shape, or form that I could be loved. Anyway, so I ended up making a lot of bad choices, and then it would become a baby, and then I have to have an abortion. So the thing is, I finally just saying, I'm just gonna. This is a man I'm gonna marry because we already had a wedding date. We're gonna have to up the date because we're going to be showing, and I want to keep this one, and but it was so scary every inch of the way to this day that it is scary for me to think in terms of how I'm screwing her up. Am I screwing her up? Am I making? It's like I'm always terrified
Right.
that something I said or did, or she's repeating, or any of the bad, stupid things she's done, that's my fault, it's my fault. It's the most courageous thing I've ever done is have a child and continue to try to fix what happened to me and never, ever, ever give that ship up because that's, that's bravery to me.
Mm.
I have to face my own stuff. I have to face my own culpability in some of the things that she has gone through.
It's funny, you can't worry about screwing her up. My sister, yeah, I'm the youngest of 4 girls, and my sister always used to say to me about my kids, she said, "You're a great mom, but don't worry, your kids will never remember all the things you did. They'll only remember the things you didn't do."
Well, I try to not put that in my head because remember I'm always trying to find prosperity in everything. So the thing is that she picks that up and she tells me the stuff that thank you for giving me this, and thank you. So she actually does give me that because she knows I badly need it. But I'm also not. I don't feel I need to like have her read my mind. Sometimes you have to tell people I need you to say this to me. It'd be really nice if you told me that you were grateful or that you acknowledge that I did do this for you. I mean, I think people too much want to think that people are mind readers, and I think all you have to do is just tell someone this is what I'd like you to do or not do. Stop bullying me because I feel like you're making me feel awful and making me feel like I don't have a voice, and so I just shut up, and then it makes me feel bad about myself. So could you not do that? And so that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is, it works more often when you talk about it than if you don't. And so I think it needs to. I think people need to, and that's what I. teach in terms of like when you're breaking down a script, this is the moment, this line, this moment, or this behavior is to tell that person, the person your personalization, what you want them to give you, what you want from them. You know, so this way, if you're not doing it in your real life, because some people just can't deal with going to the person that you're dealing with just can't be open to things, is that you just do it in your work, and then therefore there's a sense of memory for it. You actually have done it. You haven't done it maybe with the actual person, but you've done it with the substitution. So it becomes a sense of memory that is very valuable and makes you feel good, makes you feel like you accomplished something.
Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to cover?
I think the main thing that I want to cover is like actor to acting coach, just for you, is that to always find the choices that aren't going to create a victim reality, but find the choice that's going to allow you to feel like the victim to start off with. That I don't want to be that anymore, and that becomes the journey that you outline for your character, or if you're writing it for your characters, or for if you're directing it for how you explore the dynamic of the hurt to turning it into something that creates a empowered reality as opposed to a victim reality. I think it's really important because it's a choice. Because you can take any material and see the victim in the person because it's there, it's on the page. But you also see how you can find empowerment in something that used to victimize you, and then you go, I don't want to do that anymore. You can find that all material. There's no material that doesn't support this. So the thing is that find and explore the empowerment from your previous victimization of in terms of the character, and then through the personalizations, find how you can be empowered in your world through your personalizations.
That's great. Somebody said that you have a beautiful smile. I agree. I'm going to get you to smile really hard now because we're going to play a quick little game before I let you go. Okay?
Okay, well,
So
here's the
you're
problem
going to
with
answer the
I
question.
like to do with their smile, and I'll tell you
Okay.
what.
Great
Smile.
smile.
I
Okay.
know, but I broke my teeth off when I was a kid. I was made fun of. They couldn't put new teeth in. Like for so many years, I was made fun of. So the smile, like to me, I do this a lot,
You do
and
have a great smile.
I know
Okay.
it's
This is
okay.
you. Ready? You're going to fill in the word or the sentence, whatever you like. Okay.
Okay.
If I were a fruit, I would be a,
I don't know what mango. Mango.
why would you be a mango?
It's just because it sounds festive.
It does sound
It's like
festive.
festive. Not like
Okay.
mango, 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 mango.
Okay. My last meal would be,
Oh God. Fried chicken from Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and pizza.
oh, mine's pizza. Pizza and a good glass of red wine. I said pizza and a good glass of red
Oh
wine.
yeah, no, for a good whiskey, a good
Yeah.
Japanese whiskey.
Okay, last one.
Talking about
My
that.
biggest my biggest fear is,
Um, my biggest fear is not being able to change people's lives the way I choose to do so because I feel like I've had to suffer a lot in my life. I need to know that that was suffering was for a good cause. And so my biggest fear that I wasn't able to make that big leap to really changing people's lives. But when you tell me that you're getting all these things from people, and you know, guys, feel free to tell me when you see me too, because like I appreciate it because I need to hear it. Is that is that the pain and the trauma that I grew up with and so many times of different elements of life, not just childhood stuff, that that I suffered for a purpose. And the purpose is to empower people through the arts. So that's my biggest fear. But I'm feeling that like through this interview that you're helping me get past that fear. And I
oh,
thank you, Lois. And that is the
I'm
low down. That is the low down.
the lowdown. And you know what's so interesting? You and I have there's something that goes on when I'm speaking with you. I feel this connection. And what's weird is that the last question I ask everyone in every interview is, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would you tell her? And it's as if you almost channeled that answer, but go a little deeper. If you could tell give your younger self advice, what would you tell her?
You can survive this.
Yeah. Ivana,
Cry.
I,
I got
I'm going
tears.
to cry too. I'm going to cry too. You know, I am so grateful to my friend Jane Badler. Shout out to Jane Badler for connecting us. Yay, Jane. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And I know that you've probably got to dash off because you probably have somebody at 4 o'clock. But I just want to tell you I love you, and I am so happy that you're part of my life. And I can't wait for us to, for me to get the dates so we can get back to work.
Exactly. Those damn dates. It's an actor's nightmare. It's like, it's been pushed. It's been pushed. This happens. This is both sides happen. It's been pushed, or they decided to shoot tomorrow.
Right.
So, but it goes
Well,
in both
I have no
ways.
illusion that that's going to happen, but but anyway, send you lots of love. Have a beautiful weekend. Stay safe. And
Goggles.
thank you, thank you,
Goggles.
thank you. Everybody loved
Love
this so
goggles.
much.
Love goggles.
Everybody's saying, thank you, Ivana, you're so wonderful. And you are. You are
Oh, thank
just
you.
amazing. Okay, lucky us, lucky us.
Well,
Mwah.
lucky me, and thank you, Lois.